Welcome to the Wellness Founders Podcast, where we explore the business of wellness and the people creating the future of well-being. Today, we have Matt Skinner on the podcast. Matt, co-founder of the Charleston Hemp Collective with your wife. You focused on building and delivering high-quality hemp-derived products centered around wellness, which is speaking my language. And after years of experience in the cannabis world, also led to you becoming the founder and CEO of High Rise Beverages, an effects-based beverage brand that combines clean ingredients with hemp-derived THC, CBD, adaptogens, setting a new standard in the non-alcoholic beverage industry. I had quite a few of those a few months ago at the Running Man Festival, which we'll get into. But Matt, hey, welcome. Thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
Well, tell me, Matt, you guys done Running Man 2 years in a row as the exclusive THC CBD beverage provider. What makes you excited to do an event like a Running Man, and how did it go for you guys this year?
Well, first of all, you went for the first time this year. You know how great it was.
Yep.
I think when we got involved with it originally, which was 2 years ago, the first year we were just really trying to find great health and wellness events. The people behind that event are amazing, but once we got there year one, we realized the community that was behind it. And just 1 year you get in it, everybody feels comfortable. It doesn't matter what your shape, what your size is. I mean, we got some of the most fit people in the country that show up for that, of course. And then you got other people who probably have a couple extra pounds that they want to shed off, but everybody brings everybody together, cheers them on. We run a track for a day, and then we get in the world's largest sauna and we drink high rises and listen to great music at night. So, I mean, it's a massively fun time, and we've loved being a part of that community.
Or you make the decision to drink the high rises for the race, which is what I did.
Well, people do that.
I don't know if that was the best idea, but it definitely made me not think about it as much.
I mean, a lot of people just get going and they go out there, as you know, planning on putting in a 5K or a half a marathon, and they stretch themselves to a whole nother level. I think there's people, because you're there for the whole day, and you can stop and take a break if you need to, or just walk a lap or two and then just get back on it. But I mean, if we can say that the high rises are contributing to people going that extra mile, that's good.
Yeah, I definitely got a few extra miles from my high rises. So I thank you for that.
Very cool.
Okay, so there's this whole innovative beverage concept, this non-alcoholic beverage category that you guys are uniquely positioned in. Tell me about your journey into just getting into this beverage space, and what was the initial motivation for you to be like, this is a place where I want to create a business like this?
Well, first I have to say you gave me a hell of an introduction. I don't think anybody's done that good of a job of it, breaking down. Our first brand we got into was Charleston Hemp Collective, and we started that brand when the Farm Bill took place. We really wanted to get behind the CBD movement. My wife found out around the same time that she suffers from ulcerative colitis, and she's always been passionate to follow me as an entrepreneur. And this was a moment we wanted to really craft something that was unique around something that she was passionate about. So we went up to living in Charleston, South Carolina. We went up to Asheville, North Carolina, where a lot of farming community is around and people were crafting their own products. And we thought it was very special and unique, and we wanted to bring the same thing back to Charleston. So Charleston Hemp Collective was born. We partnered with a manufacturing facility up there in Boone, North Carolina, and we started crafting all of our own products. We didn't want to buy third-party products and put our label on them. We really wanted to have some true intent with the ingredients that went in everything, and that was everything from tinctures to gummies, a little bit of a Rolodex across the board in the hemp space. We created all those products, and we had brick and mortar stores for that we opened up. One on King Street in Charleston, another one on River Street in Savannah. And our manufacturers, after we got a couple years in it, said, listen, have you ever thought about a beverage? And I got to be honest, when we first heard about it, I was like, I don't think people are going to get this. They said, you need to look at this beverage company out west called Cann, C-A-N-N, and unbelievable group. They kind of pioneered the whole wave of this beverage movement in the real true THC space of marijuana. And they did a microdose product, and they had a lot of great people invest in their brand that you could read the stories on. And we're like, there might be larger legs than something that's a Southeast brand. So we might want to get rid of this Charleston Hemp Collective name for this. This might go a little deeper than just the Southeast. And we thought about the qualities we love of Charleston, the coastline, the beauty of community, people coming together. So we want to create this lifestyle visual brand, and High Rise was born. And it's been a ride ever since we started. We're now partners with 69 distributors throughout the country. Portion of them, a good portion, about 70%, are Anheuser-Busch independent distributors. Portion of that's the Molson Coors network, and the rest are independents. But it's been a fun ride, and now me and my wife just going to travel through the country and tell people about fun drinks that are effects based outside of alcohol, which is a fun thing to do.
It's awesome to see that type of growth. I'm curious, if you go back to the Charleston Hemp Collective, what were the products that like what was the line of products that you guys had then? And was that difficult, like identity wise, to like let that go and be like, we're gonna go, or at least shift your focus? And I don't know how you're spending your time now, if you're still spending time developing other products in that Charleston Hemp Collective, or where does that stand now?
You know, I think when we started the beverage, it was a little bit of an afterthought. We thought it would bring it to our community. It would just be a product that we put in our Rolodex. But like I said, we said this might have longer legs than
Mhm.
just something in the Southeast. And what happened is it was perfect timing. I think if the timing would have been any other time in the last 100 years, we would have had a different result with these kind of products. We just got out of COVID. So many people are social media driven, meaning the way they look at the world, the way they want to perceive themselves. They don't want to be like their parents when they're drunk and somebody caught them on video. People are very conscious of their behavior. They're very conscious of their health and their wellness. And everybody getting out of COVID just carried a little extra PTSD of the world. And I think alcohol really has taken a backward step, as we all know. I mean, majorly. And the timing of that with this kind of curious movement and an effects-based drink and creating these drinks, that's when our community of Charleston, South Carolina, we had just a bar here, want to pick it up, and then a bar here. And if you know anything about Charleston, South Carolina, it's very much a foodie culture here. And we've got some of the best chefs in the world. And if you get placed in the right spots, the rest of the community gets FOMO. Before you know it, that's kind of what happened. We got some good partners that brought in our THC drinks. They put them on the menu as a way to craft an effects base in a drink. And, the right people brought it in. And next thing we know, it just became part of the culture at Charleston. So, and getting back to your original question of, did we think it was going to go over like that? No, but we haven't been able to dedicate any more time except the growth of High Rise. That's kind of where all of our focus shift like overnight. And we didn't expect it. We were just riding around the community with cases hanging out our windows at first, and we didn't know what a distributor was. We really didn't get any of that. So, but yeah, that was the start and that was the launch, and that's where it's been ever since.
And when you're going to market like that, and you have this this collective, and now you start this side project, you think it's going to be small, it kind of blows up. What was that point where it was like a turning point or a tipping point where you're like, okay, we got to go all in on this? Like, was there a moment when you're like, there's a certain number of bars, restaurants that are like really interested in this? Is it something that happened outside of the state where it's like now these people want it? Like, what was that turning point? And was there like a number? Was there a realization around it that was
Yeah,
clear?
there was actually a couple of things that kind of happened right back to back. One was, we noticed as with the Charleston Hemp Collective brand, and we crafted those products. I mean, we live in, again, I'll go back to being in the South. Um, Charleston, South Carolina is in South Carolina. So the progressiveness of cannabis, we've always been concerned that maybe the general public wouldn't quite get it. We're in the Bible Belt, so to speak. And when we had our other products like our tinctures and our gummies that we made, the adoption of that outside of our storefronts was, quite honestly, it wasn't even there. We would try to knock on doors, try to do some wholesale with that, but we just couldn't get the penetration. But something happened in a beverage, and I don't know if it's just a normal reaction where people pick up a drink. And if you look at our brand, High Rise's brand, we don't have weed leaves on our drink, anything like that. It's very much something that you'd find in a refrigerator. You feel comfortable with your kids coming in the refrigerator not knowing it's a THC beverage. It's just really a fun looking drink. And just that shifted gears. It went, and everybody was comfortable with THC all of a sudden. As soon as it went into a drink, everybody was comfortable with it. It was weird how that shift happened. The other piece was we had an opportunity to get involved with Sony Music and the CMAs in Nashville. It was our first step out of Charleston, South Carolina, and the Country Music Awards were coming together. Me and my wife love music, and we couldn't believe that Sony would actually adopt us in a position of a one-off for the CMAs, but they were looking for that NA partner. And a lot of their artists like Old Dominion, El King were performing, and they were like, listen, we just need something to separate ourselves from standard alcohol, and our artists are asking for it. So it was really weird. And we did that one-off and got back home 30 days later. And the next thing you know, we got a phone call from Sony, and they offered us the first official partnership with Sony Music in the NA space. So that was a normalization for THC beverage. And from there, those two things happened back to back.
Yeah, it's wild how just a couple of shifts in perception with certain companies or certain people saying this is okay or this is, it's wild how that happens. I remember distinctively getting in trouble for smoking marijuana when I was a teenager. And then I remember like this shift at one point when I went home, and I'm from California originally, one of the early adopters of legal marijuana. And I just remember going home one time to visit my folks. This was like well after college or something. And I found this drawer where it's just full of
It was your parents.
edibles and all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like I was getting in
I
trouble
love
for
that.
that. And it's just so interesting to see, just how that perception can shift. And it's like, man, alcohol is so much worse for our bodies in so many ways, but yet is so much more accepted. Um, so I think that timing part is such an interesting thing that you bring up. But I'm curious because it's not only timing. There's obviously the experience you had. There's maybe some of the branding, like you said, with the can, not, being more subtle. I'm curious, like what other maybe non-obvious factors of how you've built this brand played a role in your success. If you're to like reflect back, what do you think have been the other things that have played a
I
role in that?
think lifestyle is very important to me and also my wife, and living at its fullest. And that experiential side of our company, we invested money into being a part of really cool community and events, starting with Charleston, of course, and stepping into Nashville and the music scene and being a part of things with Sony and driving into the cool music venues because of that partnership, which is what opened those doors, and then becoming part of things like Running Man and higher elevated events like the Food and Wine Festival in Highlands, North Carolina. We just got back from this weekend. High Rise is a big part of that, the Charleston Food and Wine, but we really wanted to create this experiential piece that was elevated, not what you traditionally would see THC drinks at. And so the lifestyle side of our brand is what we really put out there. I mean, I know we sit here and we talk about THC drinks right now, but really we are a health and wellness brand that offers THC. We're going to be moving in the first quarter this year into our functional beverage line, which will have the same ingredients except for the THC factor, but we'll be working with adaptogens, mushrooms, and really just things that don't have the same strict regulation on them. But I think that lifestyle component and creating moments for people where they can be a part of something that's not alcohol and feel included is important.
And your perspective personally on this as being wellness driven in these kind of experiential marketing events, it sounds like you're going after like upper scale events or places where, normally you wouldn't see a THC beverage or you wouldn't expect it to be there, but it's something that it seems like that in itself is maybe your attempt at shifting the perception in general. Like
100%.
it sounds like that's really important to you to just shift the perception of what these beverages actually do for people in their lifestyle. Is that
Right.
right? Is
Well, it
that fair to
helps
say?
normalize it, and it gets away from the stigma that we're just a dispensary driven
Yeah.
product. Nothing wrong with dispensaries. Listen, I attend them as much as I can, but The bottom line is these products, once you just take some time to get behind the science, um, everything from going back to what I said about my wife with ulcerative colitis, the way
Mm,
that helps her with pain and inflammation. I had a wonderful private dinner last night that I was invited to by one of the highest end chefs here in Charleston. They were doing it for Charleston Food and Wine private dinner, and the lady who was hosting it came over to me and said that her child has epilepsy, and they keep High Rise in the refrigerator, and that's something that she can have, and it helps her feel like she's a part of things with everyone else because she can't drink alcohol. So when I
mm.
hear things like that, I mean that it's just awesome, man, and that really creates a community for people who sometimes don't feel like they can be a part of other things.
Love that. Yeah, absolutely love that. And so on the experiential side, when you're looking at where to invest your time, your money, your effort with the brand being visible, how is it that you're evaluating these events for the success that they might deliver, and what's the ROI for you guys when you go to different events that you're speaking about?
Well, if anybody ever tells you the ROI is anything more than the moments, then they're probably throwing the wrong definition out there of ROI if you're building a lifestyle brand. I think a lot of times that's hard to judge. You can do your research on what you think would be great, but really it comes down to being a part of that event and how much you notice that event personally cares about that collaboration. There's a lot of stuff out there you'll spend your money on, and it's cool to be there, but if you don't leave with a sense of community, whether it's from the people putting the event on and really caring for their vendors like that, or just from the vendors that are there wanting to come together, just like you and me through being a Running Man right now. I mean, it's super cool. And that's what it's all about. And I think we're in a world today where community is really more than anything to most people. And so we keep tying back to that, man.
But that seems hard to judge unless you've been before, right? Because obviously with the Running
Correct.
Man, at the Running Man, like I went this past year, I could see why it's so influential and so awesome for so many people. But like let's say you're evaluating for next year, what are the events we're gonna do? And you've got this big list of events, and you've maybe have many good options to choose from. Is there a way that the criteria that you're using to say, okay, this is the one we'll go to, but we're not going to go to that, or like how do you make those decisions?
Well, you definitely, as you grow, your markets grow. You take some risks. Like I said, I think we consistently stay with the events. We've got a handful of them. We do the Key West Singer Songwriter Festival, which that's around music, and I bring a lot of my investment community and people that have just supported the brand down for that. Um, Sony's CMA event is something that's special to our heart, and so it tells a little bit of our story. Charleston being our hometown, the food and wine, and these are because we've been a part of them, so we stay committed to those. And I think every year we take a flyer on a couple of events where we're going to go all in, and some of them are hits, some of them are missed. But again, it goes back to what clientele are we getting in front of, and that clientele is just people who are really there to experience living their best. And it doesn't have to be. We're probably go further off the radar than most people in our space would go. They'd be looking for the next reggae event, something that's very culturally driven around what we consider mostly cannabis. And listen, we love those events too, but we try to challenge ourselves because we're an education first brand. And a lot of times just getting in front of the right group who's has the question marks and you're willing to answer the questions, you really find a different level of loyalty behind that because you're really kind of putting the education out there first. So, yeah.
And when you say, we're education first, how does that impact the messaging? How does it impact the go-to-market strategy? Like it probably impacts every single way that you think, but what does it mean to you to be education first within this type of a product and how you lead
I,
with the messaging?
I think we're in prohibition right now. And if everything you do when you're building a brand like this, it's not built around looking at a longer term place of not only education, but thinking forward of how tight regulation is going to be involved. And again, I'm not trying to get off track, but it kind of goes to the question of like, we've only partnered with a 3-tier system. We don't self distribute because we want a third party to monitor our products before they go to a retailer. We want them to check check every box that our COAs are correct for what's on the labels of the can. And there's a lot of stuff out there that just tries to completely cut that corner. And that's an education piece where we want people to know that we go through those processes. And when it comes to the education, we set up at every Total Wine we can set up at, we set up at every bottle shop that'll let us, and we just go there with our cases and we sample and we talk about, the benefits of our product and how this can work with your body. So we do a lot of sampling. And then we lead with also QR cards that we take everywhere that people can hit our website and, ask us questions, and we're there to always answer.
It sounds like a lot of guerrilla marketing as well. Just getting on the road, getting in front of people.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me about that process of like what that's been like, and give us a picture of like how many places you're hitting, how like even from the beginning, and has that changed? Have you been able to relax a little bit, or you're still like
No,
out every weekend just out in front of stores doing sampling? Like how does it work for you now?
we literally just had lunch here in Charleston with some friends prior to this call, and they were like, "Well, so what are you guys plans for the holidays?" We're like, "We're staying in Charleston. We're not going anywhere because that for us that's going to be a holiday." The last year's been a lot of travel. Me and my wife are very fortunate. We don't have children. We're not fortunate that we don't have children. We're fortunate that that allows us to get on the road, um, and we enjoy it. We're kind of gypsies at heart, and we've got our dog, and he's everything to us, and we take him everywhere we go, and we love getting in front of anybody, and especially our distributors, because they're learning too. The crazy thing is it's not like beer where they're just bringing another beer. They don't even know how to talk about this in the world, half of them. So we have to go out there and do the initial introductions, and then the bartenders are scared to death of it because they're like, how do you even pour this? Can I make mocktails with it? And we enjoy that piece of it. And it's a new time. But yeah, we've traveled a lot over this last year for sure. It's been a
And
lot of travel.
that seems to be the trend of being an innovator and a disruptor in a product space like this, where you're totally changing the perception of what people think with a product, and coming with that is the education gap, right? Like being able to tell people along the path, not only the people that are storing it, the people distributing it, the people that are selling it, people that are making something with it, is everybody, that the end customer is like everybody has to be educated in some way. And I imagine that can probably be exhausting as well to have to just constantly be telling people all the benefits. Probably fun because you seem very passionate about it, but also like difficult because like you feels like you're pushing a boulder up a hill sometimes. Is that true?
I mean, it is exhausting. That was
Yeah.
another piece of the conversation about how exhausting it is, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I know my wife wouldn't
Yeah.
either. We're fortunate enough that we're given this platform that we get to create a new space of the way people think and the way people consume things. And we have a responsibility to do it the right way and to be out there in the front line. So
That that's such a great way to look at it, and it's how I try to look at anything that I feel heavy around like that, where I get into a sense of feeling this is an obligation, but the reality is I've chosen it, so it's actually a responsibility. And
yeah,
that small reframe allows me to feel much more ownership about my attitude and my energy behind it, of like, I'm excited to wake up every day and do something like this. I'm excited to like push this forward. And especially in the wellness industry, for instance, like the downstream effects of what people get, and people healing and people feeling better. I don't think there's anything I'd want to be part of more than, that type of fulfillment. So that's great.
absolutely. Yeah.
What percentage of your marketing activities is in experiential marketing? And then how else do you guys market and get the word out?
We've put a little more of a push to e-commerce here lately, which, we put marketing dollars behind just ads through Meta, which, I can't even go down this road because I don't understand that world. I got a great
Yeah.
team who knows how to do it. But it's right now because the regulatory landscape does not treat this just like alcohol. Like you can't sell alcohol online. So we have a little bit of a window, and that's a way to get to the masses right now for people to see your brand out there. So that's something we're doing. And it's just posting up and talking. Like you said, a lot of it's guerrilla marketing. It really is. But I feel like people are really receptive to this. So for every one person you hit, they really tell about 3 or 4 of their friends about it. So it moves pretty quick.
Matt, would you say that you're a product guy through and through? Is that your zone of genius, or what do you think is your zone of genius in all of this?
I think I'm definitely a visionary when it comes to this. That's a strong term to use for yourself. And I don't think I've ever said that before, but I'm very specific on the way we launch this brand, very specific on the
Mm,
ingredients that go in it. You know, just going back to that, I get challenged a lot because the way we make our product is definitely not the easiest. I'm very limited with the co-packers that'll work with us because we use real fruit. Um, that has to go through lines to a co-packing and could damage some equipment. So, but I won't change the innovation of our product just because I feel like it's what separates us. Yet real fruit, water, the hemp extract, and then organic cane sugar. And it's a very big part of our story from a health and wellness. So I definitely put the pillars of our brand and what means the most to us. That goes back to lifestyle, that goes back to culture, that goes back to health and wellness. And, we never deviate from that. And that's what we build our house from.
And so, evaluating you as a visionary in all the ways that you're bringing new products out, where do you see this going? Like, what does this look like in 5 years, in 10 years? Like, do you think that far ahead, or is the vision a year ahead, or what goes through your mind?
Well, I definitely don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I don't know that you're familiar. This is perfect timing to have this interview because I don't know if you heard about a week ago. Um, we just had a bill put into effect that's trying to ban our industry
Mm,
across the United States, and we're working behind the scenes right now with lobbyists and here in the state of South Carolina to write regulation, and we're hoping that that moves up to a federal level. So, again, being a part of the mission means sometimes you got to get your feet in the mud and really go all in. And that's what we're doing right now. But like I said earlier, it's prohibition. I think we're going to get to the other side of this. We have a year with this new bill to amend the legislation and kind of make some sense of it. Right now, it would destroy the whole hemp industry as a whole, even the farmers. So it doesn't make any sense. So we're working through that process. But for High Rise Beverage, I think it's going to be the new wave of the Coca-Cola for
mm,
Gen Z and for
yeah.
other brands like us. I mean, it's not just High Rise; it's other brands like us. There's a lot of great operators, a lot of great founders out there in our space who really care about the the quality of how much this is changing the world. And it's fun when we all work together and come together.
And what's the process of bringing a product like that to bear? Like what are all the things that you got to do? I'm sure there's a lot, but what goes through your mind, and then what do you get the team doing? Like, how do you
Yeah,
decide?
I
How do you
mean,
decide to do that?
when you look back at the sequence of how we got, because none of us came from beverage. I mean, now we got a much bigger team, and we've got some very seasoned veterans, some guys that have built great organizations to the craft brewing world, and we needed to bring their experience on to help us expand through the country. But to start, it was so organic. I mean, Stephanie Zupek, who was our marketing director for our company, had never looked at a beverage before and understood where to put the ingredients on the can. But I think if we would have hired a third party to do it, it wouldn't have the authenticity that it does because she did it. It was really, she's been with me. She helped craft the Charleston Hemp Collective brand. So she's understood me and my wife for 3 years prior to this, knew what was important to us, and really put a logo on paper that probably would have never been done if we would have hired a beverage professional. And it worked for the time. So, um, I did an interview the other day, and they were asking me, what pages are you taking out of the book from Beverage? And I said, I'm not really looking at it. I think we're writing a new chapter right now because it's just a different world. And, we don't want to copycat craft beer. We want to have different ways we go to market. But it's all a new game.
Maybe you're not copying craft beer, but you have mentioned craft and the idea of crafting a lot, because
Oh,
that is
absolutely. Yeah.
like the core of how you view it, and I think that's where it ties into you being a visionary, and like where you see this going is that this is a craft experience, and this is something that is bringing people together. There's lifestyle. I love the holistic nature of everything. When you talk about like being a craft company and having craft drinks, What does that mean to you, and where do you want to see that go, knowing that you're not playing by the same playbook as alcohol is?
Well, I mean, I think when you say you're a craft company, you want to make sure that you're very, very true on your intent with your ingredients. So, going back to your question about the process we go through, we take some time. We're in a 6 month testing period of trying a product several times and modifying, even if we think we've hit the best result, just because we want to make sure that when we put it to market, it's going to be the creme de la creme. But we also want people to experience the best craft in themselves. And we started taking our seltzers and going to bars, and everybody wanted something unique to their bar that they don't want the same high rise seltzer they can get next door. So we would take a piece of that seltzer, and then they take a couple ingredients from behind their bar and craft something that they could put beside their name and their place that had a THC high rise vibe to it. So we're like, so much of this is going on, but then we've got half of a can that sits empty that they're losing. We've got to modify this down to an experiential piece where we go in, we give them a choice of some recipes, and then they're going to have some ingredients. We bring our own mixologies played with this in so many ways and those flavors that work well together. And we go in and help them craft their best experience. And then at home, when you take a bottle home, just get all your fun stuff in the refrigerator out and just start playing with it. And it's a way to be crafty and stay away from the booze.
I love that. And I'm curious along this process, because there's so many different learning points, and even this one here that you're talking about, where you're educating people on how to create, something from the drinks, and even down to like how much of the can that they can use, and making sure that the measurements are correct. I'm curious, what have been the biggest lessons from building this business for you? Like if you're to just pinpoint a few that really stick out.
It's how fast, well, it evolves fast. Dosing, any kind of THC, everybody's probably got a horror story if they've been playing around with cannabis long enough, whether you ate that chocolate and jumped on that airplane and wish you were never up there that high in the sky. I've had that moment. But I think, the great thing about beverage is a 5 milligram can, which is a small dose anyway, because we make it sessionable, that activates as a way to upset a glass of wine. You're getting rid of a glass of wine. So it's never going to be a high dose anyway. But you got to think about it. You're having 20 sips of that 5 milligrams. So you're really only taking in about, a quarter of a milligram every time. So I think that that's one great thing about beverage is that you can kind of walk through the experience instead of eating that gummy. And next thing you know, you're in Willy Wonka land. But I think the thing you learn is that every method is different, and trying to learn that everybody's body's different and finding a way to articulate that to people without sounding like you're all over the place, telling people to slow into things and don't go all in and think, oh, my friend did this much, I can do it too. Start slow. And I think everybody would have a better experience if they slow rolled into dosing anything. But that's been the biggest thing that's a challenge, but it's always something we're talking about. And we noticed for the first time that the experience of people drinking that seltzer and then somebody making a mocktail with that shot was completely different. And I think it goes back to what I just said. With a seltzer, you drink it for a while. That mocktail is so easy and light, and it's in a pretty coupe glass. You just 2 sips and it's gone. Now you're going for round two, and you can consume too much too quick. So it's just that's an evolving piece.
Mm. Yeah, and I've definitely had those moments, so I can appreciate the dosing comments for sure. Uh, would you have done anything different in the business if you were looking back at what's happened? Any key moments where you're like, oh, that decision, I probably could have made this decision or done something differently.
We had a very quick recall moment in South Carolina. South Carolina put the pressure on us to eliminate these products. And like I told you, we kind of went all in on South Carolina. So we didn't have mass distribution everywhere. And um, there's an organization called DHEC, and it's the Department of Health here. And their job is to analyze consumable products before they go to market, make sure labels are accurate. And they came back, and it was really we believe that they just didn't want these products in market, and they came back and told us we had to take the dosing off of the can. And we chose to pull out of market. I mean, I could have easily pissed a lot of investors off, because that could have gone very sideways. But by doing that, we brought out what we called the blackout version, and the blackout version was an adaptogen line, but we never gave it the attention it needed because we got back on track with the THC side. So I think moving too fast and just trying to throw a Band-Aid on something really quick, that was a mistake for us. We shouldn't have dropped that blackout adaptogen version at the time because it was just too quick to market. But I will tell you, that was the biggest, that right there is kind of what put us on the map. That's when the Southern Crown, which is a distributor here in South Carolina, the largest AB independent network in the Southeast, paid attention that we took that stance as a brand, and we cared more about the consumer than we were about making a dollar. And that's when the first interest kind of jumped on their radar. And that's been a big moment for us for our growth.
And you mentioned like getting in with some of these distributors and now being, I think you said 69 of them across the country, and that being a pivotal moment of getting distribution. Tell me about for someone who doesn't know about this distribution, maybe like yourself at the very beginning, how does that work in this beverage space, especially in a beverage space that's new? This is a new category. Like, how does it work, and how do you end up getting new distribution, whether it be independent or otherwise?
I think when you look back, your first distributor, you're just excited that somebody will take your product, right? You're like, oh my gosh, somebody's going to distribute my product. All I got to do is get 2 or 3 of these. I'm in a good space. People are going to start drinking it. But one thing you learn as you get in beverage is that you got to get with a network. And what I mean by that is if you want to be in the chains, which that level of adoption is happening now from Circle K, to, Refuel in the Southeast here, which is a gas station chain, high-end gas station chain, all the Lowe's Foods, which is a grocery store chain. For you to get an account like that, you have to be a full network in a state. And the full networks are through the Anheuser-Busch. And that means that a couple of independents come together to make sure they don't cross paths, but they fill the whole state out. And there's always a truck going to every one of these outlets. And if you get a smaller distributor that's local to a region, or you're never going to get that chain business. And so I was fortunate enough that I started working with this group out of Nashville called CMC Countermeasures, and they have a lot of beverage experience, and they help small brands like myself get their feet in the water of distribution, and they've got the distribution partnerships, and they're the ones who helped us with that. But like I said, we've had to bring Big Beverage in to help us through the process.
Awesome. I'm curious for you, Matt, what's your legacy in the wellness industry? What's the movement that you want to be known for creating?
I think this prohibition movement of THC is important. I think there's so much more, like I said, to us as a brand, but if we can get this legislation right that we're working on right now, it's going to be like prohibition of alcohol, but no one's the fact that we even think alcohol prohibition's a great thing it poisons us, it kills us. And I'm sitting here saying that, but I also enjoy going out and having drinks. I live in Charleston, South Carolina. Everybody knows we love our drinks here, but I think being a part of a movement that's going to transform forever, the way people consume beverages, and a wellness space where people could be their best and live longer. I think that's something to be very proud of. And I see that as a legacy me and my wife want to be a part of.
How is it that someone who's listening to this can support that particular
Come
movement?
see our website at highrisebeverage.com. Come check us out. We're there to answer questions too. So if you want to know more about these drinks, we'd love to get on the phone with you, tell you more. But just go out there and support. There's a lot of great people in this hemp space right now. There's a lot of great brands, and pick up one and enjoy a beverage at night and put a smile on your face.
I can attest. It is a good beverage. It's a very good beverage.
I love it.
And I tried every single one. I was amazed at how many you guys had there. I was like, how could you have this many beverages available for us? So that was absolutely a treat. And I met quite a few of the people that were in the little van that you guys had. That was a cool experience to like walk up there and then of course have it for the race, which maybe I overdid it.
No,
Maybe
it
I
sounds like
overdid it
you
for
did
the
a little bit.
race, but I
I
did
tell you,
okay.
and that's something I don't ever get a chance to say enough is we've got a beautiful team, man. Everybody that works for and is a part of High Rise equally does it because they just want to be a part of it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
Awesome, Matt. Well, I really appreciate you spending some time with me today to educate the listeners here on High Rise and where this movement's going. This non-alcoholic functional beverage space is super interesting to me. I hope at some point you'll get down here to South America, to Colombia, where I'm at. Maybe it'll take some time, but before, until then, I'll have to. I'm going back to the States in December, so I'll have to find some cans if you've got some
Make
in
sure you look
California.
us up. Jordan, listen, this has been fun talking with you. Thank you so much.
All right, Matt. Thank you, sir.